Welcome to today's demo. Today I will guide you through installing and using the Border Zero connector and a VPN client. I'll show you how to access your networks with a VPN and connect to applications like MySQL or SSH servers using just your single sign-on credentials. So let's dive in. This is an overview of what we'll cover in this demo. We'll kick things off with step 1, installing the Border Zero connector. So here we are in the Border Zero portal. From here in the connector page, we'll click on new connector and I will select Linux. So I'm just copying the instructions. I already have a DigitalOcean VM that I will use and I simply paste the instructions into the terminal. You can see the installation process is pretty quick. It takes just a few seconds. And now as we head back to the portal, notice how the connector has already registered itself. It is online and ready for use. Alright, moving on to step 2. So here we are going to install the Border Zero VPN client onto my laptop. So first we'll go to devices and we'll click on add device. And since I'm using a macOS system, I'll just download the macOS installer and just run the installer like any other normal installer. Follow the instructions, hit continue and just proceed through the step. Once the installer is finished, you'll see a login window pop up and notice that the login window will ask you for an organization name. This is your Border Zero organization name, which you can find here at the top left of the portal. So in my case, it's Border Zero-demo-VPN. So I'm going to log in now in my browser. It will pop up and ask me to authenticate. So just log in with your single sign-on credentials. And after that, you're done. And if you check the tray menu now, you can see the app is running and connected. And that's how easy it is to install your first VPN client. Alright, step 3 is making private VPN networks available so we can start to use our VPN. So in the sockets page, we'll click on subnet routes, and this is how you push VPN routes to your clients. So first we'll give it a name. I'll call it my private RFC 1918 network. Next we'll specify a CIDR range. I'll enter 10.124.0.0/22, and I'll link this subnet route to the connector we just installed earlier. And then we hit create, and now we've created our first subnet router. So this new subnet route is pushed instantly to all of our clients. So next up, let's see if we can validate that to make sure it works. So I'll go to my terminal and I'll type in route get 10.124.0.0/22, and we can see the route is indeed present and points to the Border Zero VPN tunnel interface. Next, let's copy the private IP address from the DigitalOcean VM and see if we can ping it. So as you can see, we can indeed ping the private IP address of this DigitalOcean VM. Next up, let's try an SSH to that private IP as well. And you can see that's all working, validating that what we've now done is made this private IP address reachable to our VPN clients. All right, let's create one more socket. In this case, we're going to turn our DigitalOcean VM into an exit node. So we'll give it a name. I'll call it my exit node. And that's really all we need to do, except for linking it to the connector that we just created, Border Zero Demo. And with that, we turned this connector into an exit node. And we can immediately see the IP address that we'll be going out of. So if I go to the top here and select exit nodes, you can see all of them. So I'll select our newly created exit node. And notice how all of this is real time, instantly pushed to all of the clients that have access to this. So next up, let's go to myisp.com, and as you can see, this is the DigitalOcean IP address. Let's copy paste that IP and let's check, and as you can see, it's exactly the same as expected. And that, folks, is how easy it is to create an exit node. Now for step 4, we'll demo how to create a layer 7 application aware resource. So we'll head back to the sockets page and click add new socket, and we'll start with an SSH server for accessing a Linux server. So I'll create an SSH socket and choose I'm just experimenting, which will simply pre-populate some of the upstream information with the demo SSH server that we make available. I will then link this new SSH resource to the connector we just created and hit create socket. So once the socket is created, we can SSH into it. So I'll copy the name and go to my terminal and type in ssh-server01. And as you can see, I'm just in by using the socket name. At no point were credentials being asked and my keys aren't on the system. I'm actually just logging in using my existing single sign-on credentials, and all of that is transparent. So now let's check the sessions page to see the session log. We can see that it was indeed the user Andre from my MacBook Air logging in, so you have all the identity and device information. And we can even do a session replay showing exactly what happened. Very powerful. All right, let's head back and let's create another socket. In this case, I'm going to create a database socket, in this case, MySQL. So we'll select MySQL. I'll click I'm just experimenting, just like before, which will pre-populate some of the upstream credentials. So I'll select the name, MySQL demo server seems appropriate. So we can just scroll down, link it to our newly created connector. And with that, we create the new socket and it should have been instantly available. So I go up here and you can see this new server immediately shows up. That's the real-time nature of things. So let's click on it. You can see the Border0 software has identified various MySQL clients on my system. I picked the one that I prefer, in this case, the CLI. Notice how it will pop up the terminal, automatically log me in. And from where I said, no point was it being asked for credentials, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm just logging in with my single sign-on credentials, all being facilitated by the Border0 software. All right, let's execute some queries. Select, that's great. Now let's try and delete something. Delete from type where ID is 1. And notice how that fails. That's not allowed. And that's because of a policy that the administrator has set for me, giving me only read-only permissions, all within the Border0 portal. All right, so let's take a look at the session log. You can see it there. It had a little warning system next to it. You can see it was Andre logged in from his MacBook to this database server. You can see all the queries, including here at the bottom, the denied query. So lots of visibility and control. We can see all the queries. We can see the type of client that we connected with. So this gives you as an administrator lots of visibility, lots of control, and me as a user, super easy access to my resources. All right, let's create one more resource, an HTTP resource. I have an internal Grafana dashboard that I want to make available. So let's call it Grafana. That seems to make sense. And we'll configure the upstream credentials. Notice how I'm also enabling session recording. That's optional, but in this case, that is great for demoing, and it's something you can enable or disable. Now, the Grafana instance runs on localhost port 3000 on the connector. So I'll set that, and we select the connector. Then we hit create new socket, and with that, that new resource is created. So if I go to the menu here, we go to resources, we should be able to see Grafana. We'll just click on it, the browser pops up, and it will ask me to log in with my single sign-on credentials. So with that, now we are in. My single sign-on credentials are actually being propagated. You can see that here on the top. And now I'm logged in to Grafana using my single sign-on credentials. So that's really powerful. And can access this even if it runs in a private network. So if we go back to sessions, we have now an HTTP session, and you can see, hey, it was user Andre trying to access Grafana. And if we click on it, we can even see a video of what happened there. So I think that's really powerful. So what we did here was essentially make an HTTP resource available for my users, even though that resource is completely internally on a private network. I was able to access it using just my single sign-on credentials. And as an administrator, we were able to see exactly who accessed what and optionally even enable session recording. Finally, I'll demo the client portal, which allows for a completely clientless login experience to your resources, even if they run in a private network, using just your browser and your single sign-on credentials. It's a full VPN in your browser that allows you to access SSH and database resources. So this is super user-friendly and perfect for unmanaged devices or mobile devices, for example. So here you can see me logging into an SSH server that runs in a private network, yet we can access it using just our single sign-on credentials and our browser. All right, and that's it. In this demo, we explored how easy it is to install your first Border0 connector. We walked you through installing a VPN client, in this case on my MacBook. We created some subnet route resources, starting with an RC1918 range, and then a complete exit node, and demonstrated how easy it is to route your traffic securely over the VPN, in this case through a DigitalOcean machine to the internet. In step 4, we created an SSH and MySQL resource, enabling seamless access with just my single sign-on credentials inherited from the VPN. And we saw how easy it was to eliminate essentially static keys and credentials. We also reviewed session logs, providing a clear picture of who accessed which services, from where, what device, and even what actions were being performed. So remember, we saw a review of an SSH session and all the detailed database queries. So this demo highlights the power of Border0 and its ability to simplify and secure access to networks and service. So head over to border0.com and sign up for free to get started today.